My guest today here in the studio has a progressive deafblindness.
Progressive does not mean improvement. I was too young to understand my disability. पीछे रह जाते हैं पढ़ाई में and कुछ समझ में नहीं आता. Deafblindness is recognized under multiple disability. Without acceptance, we cannot give the necessary intervention at the right time.
How do you see Goa, as a case study? Well, hello and welcome to a very special episode of Goa Connect. I have a very special guest in the studio. My guest has done Bachelor's of Arts, Diploma in Physiotherapy. She's also done a certificate in Food and Nutrition course. Now you'll ask me, what's the big deal? Well, my guest today here in the studio has a progressive deafblindness. I have with me Shrutilata Singh. Shruti, welcome to the studio.
Hello. My name is Shrutilata Singh and I am from Ahmedabad and I work with Sense India, which is the first and only national level organization working for people with deafblindness.
Okay, as Shruti has been kind with the words, she joined Sense India in April 2020 and has been engaging with stakeholders to advocate for rights of people with deafblindness in India. Now, with so much of challenges she's facing, I have with me Omita as well, who will interpret my questions to her and Shrutilata will answer. My first question, Omita, to Shrutilata would be, how did this progressive deafblindness started with Shruti?
This progressive deafblindness, first of all, let me explain what exactly progressive is. Here the word progressive does not mean improvement or something. Rather, it means that the vision and hearing that I have reduces day by day. So, as far as I remember, my vision and hearing was never normal. And I remember that from standard 4th onwards, I was never able to see whatever teacher was teaching what teacher was writing on the classboard. Although I used to sit on front row, and also whatever they were saying in class, I could not hear. So I can just say that it somehow started long back, but recently I also got the genetic test done and it confirmed that because of some mitochondrial mutation, I have this disability. And apart from me, my elder brother also has this disability.
Okay. How did you cope up with respect to your academics? Because that was also a challenge when you started in the 4th standard, you realized this is what you were heading for.
Well, I was too young to understand my disability and I was mostly excluded in classroom. I was not able to socialize and was not learning well. But I was fortunate enough that I had a very supportive and educated family which helped me. And my mom, being a general doctor, was able to help me in studies. And my sister, who was at that time in college, she was doing engineering. Whenever she used to come home, she used to teach me also. And I also had support of my cousin sister who was 2 years younger than me, and we studied in same school. So whatever information she used to get, she used to share with me. The lack of friends in classroom was compensated by her company and also with family friends that my parents had. My neighbors were supportive and communicative. And for academic, my family were always there. I am grateful to my mom for being very strict, because of which I learned to focus more on academics. And so I was somehow able to complete my schooling in mainstream, though I never understood anything in school and never learned.
Did you feel any social pressure, especially in your early academic years?
Well, because my teachers were not aware about my disability, I was labeled more as dull student. Yeah, but that in school it is very normal. Those students who are not doing well are mostly left behind, and the educators don't usually focus on them. That was exact condition that I had back then. And because of my family background, because most of my relatives and family are very brilliant in studies, and I was the only one in at average level, and I used to feel bad many times that I am the only one who is लिविंग बैक जो पीछे रह जाते हैं पढ़ाई में एंड कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है बट ईयर्स लेटर आई रियलाइज दैट इट वॉज बिकॉज ऑफ माई डिसेबिलिटी and was not getting support at that time. I think my parents had realized much earlier that I had this disability, so they used to take me for checkups, and the extra support was given by family only. And for passing standard 10th, my mom was very concerned, and she made sure that I had tuitions for the subjects that I was weak in. She was making extra effort in everything to make sure that I finished academics. Apart from that, I always was eager to make friends because I lacked that during those times, and students were not really eager to be friends with me at that time. And so if anyone new used to come, I was the one to jump at to make friends and make sure that they talk with me. And but it did not go on for long.
Okay, thankfully you came from a good family background. Your parents were sensitive enough to take up this matter and understood your challenges. I want to understand is you work with Sense International India as well. How do you see India and how do you see the Western counterparts with respect to awareness to deaf blindness?
In 2021, I did had one opportunity to visit Switzerland, Bern, to support another young girl with deafblindness because she was invited to in Bern at the United Nations World Data Forum, and because there were no one to support her at that time, I had to go with her. And just imagine two young girls, women with deafblindness, taking going all the way from New Delhi to Amsterdam to Zurich, then taking the train to Bern and exploring on ourselves. Well, it was all possible because of the accessibility that was there in the West, in the European countries, and people were very sensitive about disability, and whenever we used to ask for help, we used to get it. And even roads had accessibility features like some wide road, and walking and driving paths were different, and some tactile to feel that there is some turn. And also I heard from the hotel receptionist that from morning 10 to evening 5 p.m. there is audio guide in the road also for guiding people with visual impairment. And the other girl who was with me, who had better vision than me, shared with me that many people with who were hearing impaired, who were using sign language, were around, and they were freely moving here and there and were working. And even the rail station were very accessible. We could get help from the people who worked there. They were always ready to support us to get to the train and reach safely. And even when we had to reach Bern from Zurich, someone helped us. But in India, it is very difficult to get help. No. Airport is accessible, but the railway station and bus stands are not that accessible. Or rather, I should say that that is very minimum accessibility things are there. Maybe for wheelchair there are some provisions but for blind and deafblind people there is hardly anything, because people with deafblindness so rely mostly on tactile inputs. Here tactile means that they rely on touch, and if I have to get information from others, I have to touch the hand and understand what do they want to share. Like even in signing, I depend on my interpreter for interpreter support. But if it is dark, I cannot see whatever it is she is signing. So I just touch her hand and try to feel it. No, and because our country is also overpopulated, and people are not very sensitive, no, and most of the people ignore when we try to get help, or are looked down upon. So these are the things. Mostly the mindset of people is something that
Has to change.
is the biggest difference here and in West.
Okay. As you rightly said, mindset is what has to change in our country. I also wanted to know is you have been associated with Sense International India, and how has been this journey of educating, sensitizing people and taking on this mission, especially, briefing people on this?
Actually, Sense started in 1997 back then, and our director Akhil sir was the founder. And Sense India started with support from Sense International, and it slowly spread to 23 states. And our approach is mostly partnership. So we partner with different NGOs and government officials in different states, and so that we can reach out to more people with deafblindness so in different states. And for 25 years, Sense India had been actively working for advocating for rights of people with deafblindness, and we can see a lot of changes because of it, and because of also active involvement of other partners. Here in Goa, we work in partnership with Caritas organization, and the biggest achievement is recognition of deafblindness in the revised Act for Rights for Person with Disability 2016. Before that, the Act had only 7 disability, and this deafblindness was not part of it. So the people with deafblindness in India did not have the support of the law. But now, because of sustained advocacy by Sense India, deafblindness is recognized under multiple disability. But still, it has to be implemented properly, and we are trying to ensure that inclusion for people with deafblindness is in every area, like education, especially early intervention, and then education, higher education, healthcare, sports, and everything.
I was going through your profile, and it also mentioned that you have been pediatric physiotherapist at 2 of the locations. I want to understand is how did you get into this, and how has been that experience?
Well, no, before doing physiotherapy, I actually was doing a correspondence course, and at the end I was very much bored because I was at home all the time, and the decision to do correspondence course was taken considering the lack of support in the classroom setup. But later, because of lack of social life, me and my parents decided that I could enroll in a project of Blind People Association in Ahmedabad, that in which a unit for deafblind is also supported by Sense India. This was in 2013, and the course was mostly for people with blindness, not for any other disability. But because of my background in science, I was able to get it, and so after the 3 years, I became the first person with deafblindness in India to do physiotherapy. diploma in physiotherapy, and was also able to do internship in civil hospital and uh, Rotary, and also at one unit run by Blind People Association. But after that, I got the opportunity, as there was one opportunity in early intervention center. That is also part of that organization. And at first, because of my deafblindness, dual sensory loss, so the parents of children were not ready to accept me, and they were worried how would I communicate, how would I be able to give physiotherapy. But slowly they trusted me, and I worked under the guidance of a senior occupational therapist also. Yeah, because every junior, every fresher needs some guidance. I was fortunate enough to get the guidance from some senior who learned sign language to communicate with me, and I also had the support of the educators who worked there, who also knew basics in sign language. So if I wanted any information about the children, I could go through the report using digital magnifier and could ask the educator to help me in communicating with the parents. And at first it was very challenging also. I did find the challenge all the time, but slowly I learned to deal with it and understand, and experience was good, and that that was the time I understood how the parents felt when the children has the severe and multiple disability, and the challenge that they face in accepting the disability and also staying positive for children.
Okay, you mentioned challenge. I really would ask you, what are the challenges that you anticipate that for deaf blindness people that needs immediate attention in our country?
Well, first of all is this acceptance. When a child with deaf blindness or any other multiple disability is born, the acceptance by family as well as the community member. In India, our society, most of the rural area are mostly not that acceptive of children with disability, and yeah, you know how most people are in rural area. They think that it is disability is because of something bad we did in past life. These are some stigma, and because of all this, children and even adults try to stay away from those type of children. So I would say the first thing we need is more awareness about this unique disability, because without acceptance we cannot give the necessary intervention at the right time, and even for the intervention we need to have full support of family and community, which is very important. And another thing is about availability of resource. Now, or some NGOs are working for disability, and even fewer NGOs working for deaf blindness, and no, the problem is about funding and also about the lack of resources. We need more resource trained educators and also trained medical professionals who can identify and rehabilitate and give appropriate certificate of disability for people with deaf blindness, so that they can get the necessary support when needed. And uh, apart from this, there are other like accessibility. We right now our the country is fast changing, and we have so many policies guidelines coming up then every day. But how and people with disabilities are being called to be included in decision making and also to have comments, so that it could be fully inclusive. But how many people with deaf blindness are able to participate in it? I see very less, because the information is not reaching them. So awareness, acceptance, awareness, so, and uh, about acceptance among people with deafblindness and accessibility of information. Everything needs to immediate attention in our country, whether it is physical environment or online. Everything has to be accessible, not just for people with deafblindness, but everyone with disability.
With your experience, has our country changed with respect to accepting this deaf blindness?
Yes, first thing is to change the mindset of people, and without that, we cannot ex- expect too much change. Yes, well, just take the example of bullet train or something that the PM and others are building. Must have heard that there were damages done when it was launched. If the people are not accepting and damaging it, then what is the use of it? So, same way, if there are policies and acts and the implementation is not being done now because of poor acceptance among the people and no, and very less awareness, then how will it be implemented? Then what is the use of it? So I would say that changing the mindset of people is very important. Question was, do you think that it is changing from before all time? Acceptance. Well, yes, I think that changes are happening, but at very slow process, and we have to increase this process and increase the rate of this process. And I can see that many of the rural areas are also coming out, but it is mostly when some intervention is done by NGOs and sometimes government.
Okay. Shrutilata, you spent a little time here in Goa. You've met government officials. You've met a lot of NGOs that you've been working associated with. How do you see Goa, as a case study?
Here, the commissioner of person with disability is very active and supportive, and he is able to take up issues and he is trying his best. And many changes I can see that we still need more. There is still a lot needs to be done because. In my network of people with deafblindness, so even in Goa, see that the most of them are yet to get the support that they need, especially in terms of accessibility and education as well as employment. That will need some time, but no, accessibility in terms of deafblindness, it is something that we need to consider about. People with deafblindness have unique needs because of dual sensory loss. So anything that is made for either visually impaired or hearing impaired does not work for people with deafblindness. And so considering their unique needs, changes has to be done. And some people, some of the parents of children with deafblindness and multiple disability also share that there are still challenges in getting appropriate certificate and also in getting some pension, and also about enrollment in mainstream school. They are facing lot of challenges, but I can see that government are actively working. So I hope in future it will be very positive change that we will see.
Shruti, it's been a wonderful chat here. It's been a one of a kind experience interacting with you. My best wishes to you and your future. You said that you have progressive deaf blindness, which will continue. When you say progressive, you are not improving, but it will keep on. You will end up seeing less of the world. But I think even when you see less of the world, I think the world can see you and the world can see the beautiful smile that you have. It was indeed a conversation for me to remember. You have been watching this program sitting comfortable on your couch. maybe cribbing how life is bad at you. But then again, when we see this kind of stories, that is when we realize how fortunate the world is and how fortunate we can make our lives. More importantly, how we can make others' lives better. Where if you encounter people like Shruti or all the other people who are there, I think what I nicely heard is what they require is empathy and not sympathy. I end up this conversation on this note. It's been a pleasure experience chatting with Shrutilata and hearing her experience about it. You keep on watching Prudent.